Hi everyone. In this bite-sized bit, we're going to explore the use of loops to pursue a specific goal rather than repeat code for a specific number of iterations. This is also called goal-seeking loops. Let's go ahead and get started. There will be times when we are writing code where the purpose of a loop is not to iterate a specific number of instances, but rather to keep repeating code until we achieve a particular objective. So for example, maybe you're playing a game of cards and you're going to be dealt a number of cards until you receive your first ace. I don't know whether the first card on the deck is an ace, or the 13th card in the deck is an ace, or the 48th card in the deck is the first ace. So I don't necessarily know how many times I'm going to loop until I'm done dealing you cards. Maybe I'm flipping a coin and I'm going to keep flipping a coin until I see a heads. It's certainly possible that the very first time I flip that coin, I see heads, but it might also be the second or third or fifth or 13th time before I see the first heads on that coin flip. In both of these examples, I don't necessarily know exactly how many times the loop will need to iterate. It's going to keep repeating until I achieve a particular goal, so it's not based upon a set number of repetitions. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this might look like inside C#. I'm going to use a very simple example, and you can see I've created a template for our goal-seeking loop problem today, where the user is going to be able to type a number in a text box called goal, and then we're going to calculate a value based upon 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, etc., 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 until we reach the user's goal. And then, once we've achieved that goal, we can report back to the user how many times the loop had to run to achieve that particular objective. This is not a complicated problem, but it still will illustrate how the looping structure can act differently than it does in iteration scenarios. For our calculate method, let's go ahead and manage our input before we get to our processing. All I've done here is grabbed the text property from our text box and brought it in as an integer variable called goal. For our processing, we're going to create a variable that counts the number of iterations, but it will not be part of the criteria for the actual loop itself. So I'm going to create an integer variable called int number of iterations. And it will start with a value of 0, and it will increase every time we run our loop. The loop structure I'm going to use for this example is going to be a while loop. A do-while loop would also be a good candidate. A for loop is not a good fit for goal seeking. For loops expect to run a set number of times, and while there are some coding structures that allow for escape sequences from those loops, they still are not a good fit for what we're trying to do here. So a while loop or a do-while loop is a better choice. I'm going to be seeking a specific goal amount, so I'm also going to define another variable called int goal seeking amount. It's going to start with a value of 0 as well. And then I'm going to create my while loop, and my criteria is going to be to keep repeating this loop while my int goal seeking amount has not yet accomplished my goal. So whatever the user is asking me to look for, if I've not reached that value or exceeded that value, I need to keep repeating this loop. If the user's goal is 15 and I'm currently at 0, I obviously need to repeat the loop. If the user's goal is 15 and my goal seeking amount is 14, I still need to repeat the loop. If, however, the user's goal is 15 and my goal seeking amount is 15 or 16 or 20 or 30, I don't have to repeat the loop again. I've achieved or exceeded the goal and I can stop. Inside the loop, what we're going to do is we're going to iterate our number of iterations. So int number of iterations is going to get a plus plus. And then we're going to use that value to increase our goal seeking amount. So our int goal seeking amount plus equals our int number of iterations. If you think about what's happening here, the very first time that this runs, our goal seeking amount is going to increase from 0 to 1. The next time that this runs, our int number of iterations will increase from 1 to 2, and our goal seeking amount will increase from 1 to 3. 1 plus 2 equals 3. The next time it runs, our number of iterations will increase to 3, and our goal seeking amount will increase from 3 to 6, and then from 6 to 10, and then from 10 to 15, and then from 15 to 21, etc., etc., etc. The goal seeking amount is going to increase at an increasing rate until we have either achieved our goal or exceeded our goal. And I don't know how many times that's going to iterate before we reach the goal that the user has provided to us. That's why we're doing this, is to try to seek that number of iterations. Once the goal is achieved and we have left our loop, we need to let the user know that we have achieved our objective. And I'm going to do that by outputting what number of iterations it took to achieve their goal. I'm going to report that information using a message box that will say it took X number of iterations to meet or exceed your goal. Let's try this out. If I run my program and I type in a specific goal amount, say 14, it took 5 iterations to meet or exceed that goal. Let's think about that. The first iteration would be a 1, the second iteration would be a 3, the third iteration would be a 6, the fourth iteration would be a 10, the fifth iteration would be a 15, which would have met or exceeded our goal. So 14 takes 5 iterations to meet or exceed our goal. If I increase our goal to 16, it takes 6 iterations. If I increase it to a much larger value, like 237, it takes 22 iterations to meet or exceed that goal. This starts to become math that isn't easily obvious to us as soon as we start typing slightly larger goals, so this achieves something that's kind of interesting. And we could obviously change this problem to all sorts of things. Maybe the goal is a specific amount of money in your bank account. You're going to deposit some amount every single month, earn some interest every single month, and keep on doing so until you have enough money to buy a new television or a bicycle. This would be a neat problem to go ahead and explore those goals. In this particular case, I did use a counter variable in the code behind the scenes to report how long it took, but it was not part of the criteria for when the goal is met as far as the loop is concerned. The loop is looking at other criteria, not the number of iterations. So a different approach to looping structures. That's it for this exercise. Thanks for watching. See you next time.